this has entered the state. But an interesting fact, too, every single polygon's basically been closest to the Illinois-Wisconsin border, and they continue to add new and new warnings farther and farther east. So if history are to repeat itself, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to stretch this east if there is still at least rotation observed through the velocity product in the National Weather Service. Our radar, we can look at the size of your raindrops, we can look at hail, we can look at debris possibly forming on up. But one of our most powerful products that Stephanie just showed here is our velocity product, looking at the wind speed, change in wind direction. Now, if I had to take a guess along this line where the main concern is you're seeing lots of reds, you're seeing lots of greens. We're looking for areas of irregularities where you're seeing those two colors very close together. Does look like mostly broad rotation at this time, if I'm not mistaken, maybe something just southwest of Fort Atkinson. If we're looking at the storm relative velocity, it's the wind speed according to how the storm is moving. The overall velocity is another more interesting product too, but to focus in again where we're seeing that tightest rotation, the Janesville area, Fort Atkinson, please keep a close eye on this. But Stephanie, at this time, I'm a little lost in terms of where we're seeing that close couplet, I guess. Possibly, maybe just over Janesville at this time?
Yeah, I think almost just south of Janesville with maybe, north of Beloit a little bit too. But it just, like you mentioned, little kinks here and there within this line. It just goes to show that, once again, this is a situation where we could see these brief spin-up tornadoes really anywhere within this Boeing segment.
Well, I guess here, if head farther southeast as we get close back into Illinois, that's an area where I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing at least a little bit of rotation as well. Maybe if it's going, I guess, the opposite direction of the radar too. But again, they've extended that tornado warning to include as well Lake Geneva. So where this storm is tapping all that energy, as it keeps working its way east, is losing all its strength behind it. It's using all the instability in the atmosphere. So once this passes over you, your severe threat will continue to decline into tonight. So that's the good news. This is the cold front. This is it in terms of our severe weather producer here for tonight. But this severe thunderstorm warning has extended all the way into Waukesha County, as well including western Kenosha, western Racine. That is until 8:45. The severe thunderstorm warning, including just about all of us, 8:45. But that tornado warning, Lake Geneva, 8:30. So we still have plenty of time. You're going to get tired of our voices. I know. We're just keeping everyone safe because of this tornado warned storm. We have to be on air until this is done. We're keeping everyone informed the best we can. And right now, it looks like we're going to continue to see a long night as heavy rain and gusty winds is guaranteed with this, but the severe potential is still up in the air. Now, this does have a history of producing damaging winds over 60 miles per hour, and hail over 3/4 of an inch in diameter. The storm reports with this has been crazy out of Iowa and as well as areas in Arkansas. Now, you're pulling up some wind damage that's been confirmed, Stephanie.
Just recently, too,
okay,
as this was warned initially.
All right, so it's extended farther east. Is it a tree down? Is that what it's mentioning here?
Yeah, thunderstorm wind damage, multiple reports of multiple trees down as well as power lines. And this is in Brodhead, so in Greene County, which is one of the counties where this tornado warning was first put into place. So warranted, obviously, now that we are starting to see some damage reports. But Eric, as you mentioned, we've been watching this storm, this line of storms really all afternoon, and
all
just
these
keep
are broken
zooming
trees.
out.
All of this is some kind of emergency personnel responding or confirmed reports of damage with photos. Look at this mess, Stephanie. This is probably one of the broader systems of damage we've seen since October at the very least. I know we're just getting into spring here, but the party's just getting started for us. Stephanie, could we one more time pull up our current watches and warnings with just the radar, kind of talk through anybody that's just joining us now? So Lake Geneva has been included in this tornado warning. That's until 8:30. Our larger severe thunderstorm warning that does include Waukesha County, all of Jefferson County, and also Fort Atkinson. That tornado warning is still in effect for at least the next 15 minutes. So everyone, basically from Fort Atkinson to Lake Geneva, seek shelter immediately. Tornado has been indicated by radar. We don't have any confirmed reports on the ground, but this entire system has a history of producing tornadoes, so it is not out of the realm of possibilities. If we could take a look again at our correlation coefficient, Stephanie, just to get a look if we have any debris signatures. Is that possible at this time?
Yeah, I'm just checking with the National Weather Service real quick. They're just continuing tornado warnings, but I wanted to double check that there wasn't any new wording in there. But there is not. Once again, we're still watching for the potential of a tornado thanks to radar indicated rotation. Our correlation coefficient right now, or a debris tracker, to me, Eric, looks just fine, which is a great sign.
Yeah, we don't want to see little blue blobs all moving in one little location. We want broad coloration, meaning all kinds of different sizes of particles in the air, rain, hail. I know we don't want hail, but it's better than having wood and debris at the surface that's picking up on this radar signature. So debris tracker is looking good. Can we take one more live look at one of our cams? Is this Janesville once again? North of Janesville. Heavy rain. We had lots of lightning and thunder. This is our first good severe threat of the season. So a lot of us, don't forget, hey, spring, anything's possible in Wisconsin. There's another lightning flash there too. Stephanie's been covering this all day long. And Stephanie, I guess one question I have for you is, how has this system evolved from earlier this afternoon? Is this following kind of a track that you expected earlier?
It actually is. You know, even with areas out west, it's just really incredible to see the Storm Prediction Center, where they had their convective outlooks, their enhanced risks, their moderates, their high risks off towards the west in Iowa and especially Arkansas, to see all of that play out. And, you know, we did see scattered thunderstorms move through earlier in the afternoon. Once again, they were tame. None were severe. We had a couple of stronger storms. So
we zoom in a little bit towards Lake Geneva again, just go a little south.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And this is where we're going to have to keep a close eye on. If that crosses over in Wisconsin, that's going to be my area of concern. Because I know it's in a weird spot where you see that purple as you're getting some backscattering with the radar. Didn't mean to cut you off, Stephanie.
No problem. I'm trying to put it into motion here to
We've had some issues. Anything more than 15 minutes, the scan goes away in our computer. But giving us at least the current exact timing of the scan, it's better than nothing, folks. But when we get that purple color, that's usually not a good sign. That means it's reflecting back on something later on. That could be indicating hail. That could be indicating snow in the upper atmosphere, all kinds of things. But right now, that's likely that couplet that they're keeping a close eye on. From what I can tell, that's why they extended that tornado warning into Lake Geneva and the Walworth County area. I keep saying Lake Geneva, I apologize. Just saying Walworth County. Everyone in Walworth County is included in that warning until 8:30. For Atkinson, I haven't forgotten about you, okay? Your warnings also continue on until 8:15, so you still got some time here. Heavy rain, gusty winds, that's guaranteed with this line. But Stephanie, one thing it does look like is, you mentioned that if it passes through Madison, it's likely going to reach us too. Rarely does Madison get severe weather, and we don't get it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to stretch this tornado warning east, and they keep that severe thunderstorm warning pushing east as well. But kind of going back to what you were talking about earlier, as this has kind of followed that forecast from earlier today, Stephanie. Now to go back to what you were saying earlier, how it's evolved from that high risk in Iowa now pushing into our region. Have you seen it weakening more than you thought, or is it staying pretty consistent when it was earlier?
It's definitely not as strong as what it was in Iowa, but clearly strong enough to still produce some brief spin-ups here locally as it has been moving in over the past, let's say, 20, 30 minutes. But this is the line that we were more so focusing in on all day long, knowing that this trailing cold front, this line could potentially be the most impactful. And I'm just checking in with the National Weather Service real quick. Talking about a potential debris signature, kind of where you mentioned in northern Illinois, Eric. So let me put correlation coefficient back on. Oh yeah, there it is.
Okay, so
clear.
We got a couple little spots here. Now it could mean a few things, but one indicator that usually with the green coloration, we can pick up birds, we can pick up bats and insects on radar. That's how powerful some of this stuff is. And one thing that hail does as it falls, it rotates to the ground and it creates a bigger object than it actually is because it's rotating and tumbling. Now, seeing these isolated green locations, now generally with the debris ball, Stephanie, if I'm not mistaken, usually bluish and purplish color, you have larger objects included with it, but it is a little troublesome to have two isolated dots here. That could mean that we do have a tornado on the ground, could also mean just a brief spin up that caused some kind of debris at the surface to go along with it. But I do agree with you circling that portion there, just passing over the Wisconsin border. That's likely more concerning than this little guy to its west as you head towards Beloit. But everyone in this area southwest is included in a tornado warning at this time. Please seek shelter immediately. Interior portion of your home, away from windows, as low as possible. It is incredible how many lives have been saved by moving a room over, getting into a solid structure. If you're in an apartment complex, get into the stairwell. Almost all of those have tornado regulations required with their development. Stairwells are almost all from cinder blocks. That is your next safest bet if you live in an apartment complex. I live in an apartment, so I should know too. Looking at our velocity product one more time though, if we are seeing any rotation right now, Stephanie, it's kind of muddled up at this time. I know this is a tricky point for the radar.
I'll put on storm relative velocity.
Okay,
that might help out a little bit more. Definitely some
Possibly.
brighter colors. You know, we absolutely know there's at the very least some very strong wind in here. But yes, we do see at least some broad.
It does look broad, you're right. And this is going to happen too. With any kind of rising air, you're going to get eddies. If you ever go canoeing, you put your paddle in the water, you pull with that canoe paddle, you're going to notice all those little eddies spinning around with it. A lot of energy happens. Are you laughing at that comparison?
I think it was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Well, as we get into storm talking comparisons, when you have at least so much energy being lifted, you can quickly get these turbulent eddies, and especially with strong gust fronts with some kind of a squall line that's very organized, you can easily get quick spin up tornadoes. But as I mentioned, if there was that debris signature, Stephanie and I were showing you that greenish color earlier. This greenish color showing the velocity of wind speeds. That does tell us a lot, as well as areas along this. You're seeing at least anytime you got two different colors close together, that means there's some kind of spin going on. And right now, it does look like areas just southwest of Delavan, areas also included in Walworth County, just in general. Please seek shelter immediately. All of you are included in a tornado warning until 8:30, so we're just getting started with this. If you're tired of our voices, believe me, we're as tired of it as you are. And now we're even seeing a tighter little ball there, Stephanie, just south of Delavan by about 10, 20 miles now, it looks like. So there's another area, keeping a close eye on that. As you get farther, Clinton, am I seeing that right? Just southeast of Janesville?
Yes.
So maybe two possible areas that I'm a little less, at least, I don't know if that's so much a re-signature there.
And I'm just going to cut you off real quick because the National Weather Service did actually, just a couple minutes ago, confirm a tornado near Milton, moving northeast at 55. So that's Rock County.
Okay.
But still, that is tracking northeast at about 55.
So that must be what we're seeing then, I guess. This has to be it then? Oh, Fort Atkinson.
A little bit farther towards the north, which, I mean, it's not necessarily showing up on correlation coefficient.
But that means maybe it's just not passing through an area that produces these debris. Farms have a lot of stuff in the fields that can easily be kicked up pretty quickly. So if we have a confirmed tornado just pushing the Fort Atkinson area, just looking along this line, there are some irregularities. Did you say it was the Milton area?
Yes.
Okay, so that is likely where we're talking then. So Milton.
So definitely some kinks in this velocity scan for sure. Not necessarily a full couplet, but
it's something.
Irregularities, absolutely.
Yeah, and with those, you can get a quick spin up EF0, EF1 that can still cause a lot of damage, can still do a lot of hurt if anyone's outside. So please, again, if anyone you know of that's in the area, tell them to be somewhere safe at this time. It's dark outside. You're not going to get a good video of this one anyway, dads. It's not worth it. Stay inside. Get to an interior portion of your home away from windows. Fort Atkinson all the way to Lake Geneva. So Walworth County, Jefferson County, both of you guys are included within this tornado warned, at least cells. We have two different polygons. We have two areas that we're keeping a close eye on. Lake Geneva, we're just in a kind of tough spot for our radar at this time. We're starting to see a little bit of a, I want to say, kind of a comma shape. That's possibly where we could see some brief rotation. It's the counterclockwise spin. That is what we have to be really careful with these storms. That broader rotation that can quickly be spun up into a really tight-knit ball of spinning air. But from Fort Atkinson all the way to Lake Geneva, that is where the main action is at this time. Damaging winds possible. That warning is going to be expiring in about 10 minutes. So that's going to be a big tell. If the National Weather Service keeps another warning, at least pushing it farther northeast, that could be a concern for Waukesha County then. But for now, it does look like Lake Geneva up towards Fort Atkinson, that is that sweet spot. That is that squall line. Damaging winds possible over 60 miles per hour. Hail also the size of a ½ inch to a ¾ inch also possible. And as this tracks its way east, Stephanie, we've seen the strength actually sustain itself. To my surprise, I didn't think it'd have enough energy by the time it reached 94, but Otherwise, it does look like, again, we're seeing some pretty good, at least heavy, strong winds with this, Stephanie. Is there anything you're kind of seeing at this time? Did the chat mention?
Still really pinpointing northeastern parts of Rock County at the moment. I just really quickly wanted to go through
Lake Mills Cam. Let's take a look at that. Janesville is a hot spot for lightning. Jefferson County, west of Johnson Creek. Now, it doesn't look like we're getting quite as much of flashing and lightning show, but Jefferson County is where we had that tornado warning and where we have at least that confirmed tornado on the ground, if I'm not mistaken, Stephanie, right?
Yeah, that was the latest from the National Weather Service. I mean, it's hard, I think, at night to, tell if it's still on the ground or what, but that was the very latest as of just a couple of minutes ago near the Milton area. And our velocity scan, I think, is picking up on a little bit more now as well. So you can see Milton clearly on your screen, northeastern portions of Rock County, and the National Weather Service is really pinpointing that area for a line of storms with a funnel cloud report. Yeah. So obviously that all makes sense. Now this is moving northeast. Let's see. And
can we just do a track out on timing from Milton? Because that's going to extend up towards Jefferson County as well as portions of Walworth.
Yes, absolutely.
Stephanie's doing amazing, by the way. She's doing like 30 things at once. I don't know how she's doing it. Anyway.
Just going to zoom this out a little bit more and just put, kind of a broad on all of this. Push it northeast. Let's see, we'll push it out about 26 minutes.
There we go. So breaking down the timing in more detail here. So if you are in Whitewater, Hebron, Palmyra, Koshkonong, all you guys within the next 15-20 minutes, please seek shelter immediately. I know this is including areas very far to our west. If you're in the Milwaukee area, you're probably wondering, why are we so worried about this storm? Well, it's because they continue to push these warnings farther and farther east. Meaning, if it continues to trend that way, wouldn't be surprised if this stretches all the way to Kenosha very quickly. So we're going to take another look at the debris track where we could be seeing at least possible debris on the ground.
South of Delavan is our latest tornado debris signature, and you can clearly see it showing up.
So this yellow color generally means this is a little bit larger of something in the air. Now, we can't confirm what it is. This could be hail. This could even be grass clippings, or knowing this time of year, could be some mud. We got plenty of mud right now. But if you're just south of Delavan, we could also be seeing rotation at this time. Last confirmed tornado on the ground was near Milton, which is in northeastern Rock County. So that is not too far away from this either. But tornado warning for Walworth and Jefferson County from 8:15 and 8:30 respectively. Just about everyone's included in a severe thunderstorm warning until 8:45, if I'm not mistaken, Stephanie. Was it 8:40 or 8:45?
8:45, yes. Okay. And I'll put those warnings back on the screen too for everybody to see. I know it looks a little bit messy between the lightning and the actual radar.
It can be a lot of colors, folks, but we're just trying to keep you safe here. From reds and yellows, that's your heaviest of rain. Damaging wind reports over 60 miles per hour possible, regardless if you're not included in the warning. So we did have a pretty good lightning show here in Milwaukee. Just on the weather deck, we've had on and off heavy rain throughout the late afternoon. But within the next 20 minutes and 30 minutes, we're going to keep on seeing this line move east and possibly some of these warnings extended. Right now, our tornado warning again to areas south. That's 8:30, so we still have 20 minutes more where that's going to be included in Walworth, western Kenosha, western Racine, though. You're included in that severe thunderstorm warning until then. So now, Stephanie, you're zooming on in just west, it looks like, of Lake Geneva. Is there...
Right. This is the line, remember, just south of Delavan, we did have that tornado debris signature. So at this point, I think this line, this Boeing line of storms within Walworth County is going to be our main focus. And I'll put it in motion for you so you can see it kind of crawling off towards the northeast. In fact, I'll zoom it out and put a track on it for you too. So the Delavan area specifically, but if we have a tornado debris signature near Delavan within this entire line, we could end up seeing more. It could be brief. We may not even pick up on it. So really anywhere within Walworth County, make sure you are in your safe spot. You are heeding this tornado warning, and know that one of these quick spin ups is an absolute possibility. Let me put a track on here for you. This line is moving at about 55 miles per hour, so moving pretty quickly, actually.
It's humming, yeah, we're definitely speeding up here.
Still pretty much towards the northeast. So we've got Lake Geneva, I mean, a couple minutes away, knocking on your doorstep, absolutely. Yep. Burlington, 8:24, Mukwonago, almost 8:30, Norway, about 8:35, New Berlin, 8:44. I know a few of those cities are not actually included in a tornado warning, but if this line, maintains its strength as it continues to push northeast, then that could change. You may potentially be included in a tornado warning eventually.
And that's definitely been the trend, is they just continue to push these warnings farther and farther east. Wouldn't be surprised now that once we get that Fort Atkinson warning expiring in about 3 minutes, they'll probably continue to extend at least the chance of a tornado-warned storm. One thing with the squall line that can happen is you have all this sinking air with that heavy rain. We call it rear inflow jet. We can actually increase the front portion of the storm where that gust front produces all that rushing wind. And as I mentioned, as all that mass falls to the ground, it can cause brief spin-up tornadoes, and that's likely what's happening along this initial line. Notice how it's getting all muddy. There's no really nice clean line with this. In the summertime, when you have cold fronts that move through at night, you get a nice clean line. Well, this is nothing. This is a bad shave job right here. It has all these irregularities along it, and that's likely what the National Weather Service is concerned with at this time. As we look at our velocity product one more time, we're seeing some areas of broader rotation where you have that green and red very close together. Farther southeast towards Lake Geneva, maybe also some rotation possible too. If anything, the good news is there isn't any tight couplets anymore like we had briefly near the Beloit area and farther southwest, but still have to keep a very close eye on this system. Everyone's in a tornado warning for the next 15 minutes. So just west of Lake Geneva, still keeping an eye on that area of debris possibly. Could be hail, could also be small objects in the upper atmosphere. That's moving northeast towards Elkhorn, so you got about 5-10 minutes until that starts to be knocking on your door. Head indoors, be away from windows, an interior room of your home. Cannot emphasize this enough. How many people's lives have been saved simply by being 10 feet farther away from where they started? If you're sitting on your couch, I'm sorry. If you're close to a window, it is not a good place to be. You need to be as close, far away from windows as you can, but as close to the interior portion of your home as possible. But Stephanie, kind of looking at the debris signature, kind of what I'm seeing though is lots of red. That's mostly rain here, but a very curious instance just west of Lake Geneva. Are we getting other words of that confirmed? At least what we had was a
tornado debris signature and a funnel cloud report. And yes, that last report of a tornado on the ground was near Milton. And let's see, that was already about 10 minutes ago or so.
So possibly too a confirmed funnel cloud, but now with how dark it is outside, it's hard to confirm a lot of these things. And this is where it gets dangerous in the Midwest. A lot of our tornadoes and systems happen at night when it's still dark outside, so it's very hard to get confirmation of where things are. Now, with my best guess, at least, I do expect them to continue to see this warning push farther and farther east. Wouldn't be surprised, too, if you see these little bright spots popping up here or there for hail cores that could brighten up a little bit more than the surrounding, at least, forms of water. But
it does look like we have a new tornado warning, this time in northwestern parts
so they've continued
Jefferson.
it. Okay, there we go. All right. Interesting that they passed over 94 then. So if we watch this warning, that's until 8:45. So a fresh new warning, 30 minutes. Western Jefferson County now included in this. Waukesha, be warned now. You guys, to connect the dots here, likely that could be our next tornado warning at this time. It does look like the 94 corridor is going to be that cutoff, but if they've already pushed this farther northeast, Stephanie, to Jefferson County, could we start flirting with areas even north than that? Yeah, but again, from what we've seen earlier in the day today, we've lost a lot of energy in the atmosphere. Heavy rain guaranteed with this, gusty winds. Is there still showing that 60-mile-per-hour range in some of the chat, Stephanie? 60-mile-per-hour wind speeds?
Yes,
That's basically been the theme. So around 60 miles per hour, that'll blow over a tree, no problem. Especially this time of year, a lot of your pine trees, those are ones that get knocked over with some of these stronger wind speeds, and those Colorado blue spruce, they love to tip over in winds like this. So
let me throw velocity
we have
up real quick,
a lot of reports of damaged trees, especially to our west, so it wouldn't be surprised either if we have quite a bit our direction too. Now, Stephanie, looking at where they warned that's, is that just looking west of Johnson Creek?
The Lake Mills area and Lake Ripley. Okay. So you can, I'll zoom in a little bit more.
Again, it's such broad rotation with this. We don't have that classic hook echo that you usually
Right.
see with the supercell. This is now more or less a squall line where it's a very long line, lots of wind direction variations, lots of little ripples here.
You can actually kind of see it coming together a little bit more now with each scan.
Yep, there you go. That's likely why they extended that warning.
But this is moving northeast, so you know what, let me put a track.
Can we take that Lake Mills camera one more time, Jeff? One more time. That's looking northwest. All right, so
Okay.
that's not looking the direction of the storm, but just to put in
But we
perspective.
can check in with it here in just a bit because I'm sure it'll look a lot more active here even just in the next 10 minutes
Definitely.
or so.
So, Jeff, let's take it back one more time, this velocity wind speed product here. We're continuing to see at least areas of irregularities with tight couplets that have broadened out at times too. So if there's any good thing, it's harder to find where that couplet exactly is. But Stephanie, can we pull up where the warnings are just to remind everyone one more time where the warnings are, how long they're going to be. So just to communicate clearly, Milwaukee, we're still pretty far away from this. We still probably have 30 minutes to an hour until we start to see a lot of the storms knocking on our doorstep. But to our west, lots of action along this line. So if your thunderstorm warning until 8:45, that includes everyone through Waukesha, western Racine and Kenosha counties. Then Stephanie, for that most recent tornado warning, that's 8:45. Another towards Walworth County, 8:30. So we got about another 12 minutes left of that warning at this time. But this keeps pushing east. And Stephanie, because they put that warning up into portions of northern Jefferson County, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to stretch this towards Waukesha, would you?
No, I absolutely would expect Waukesha to see at least portions of the county eventually put into a tornado warning. Just checking in with the National Weather Service.
So what we're mentioning
real
is this area in
quick.
between, basically connecting the dots. It does look like this system will keep pushing basically straight east, where there's still a lot of irregularities on it, where it's going to likely have the chance to produce a spin-up tornado. Now that's the good news is it doesn't look like we have any long-lived tornadoes on the ground or anything, but those brief spin-up tornadoes, they can be nasty in areas. That's where you get a lot of that converging damage that you can't really see until you get a more aerial view the next day when there's sunlight out. Another reason why this is tricky, because it's nighttime, it's dark, and we're seeing all kinds of heavy rain to go along with it too. So unless you want to go outside and get soaked, it's hard to identify exactly where these storms are. But National Weather Service has continued these warnings all the way south. It does look like it's going to push into the Chicago area. That's an interesting thing though, Stephanie, too, that we haven't seen tornado warnings continued close to Chicago. We've been that sweet spot.
It almost seems like the line down south in Illinois is a bit weaker than what we have here locally.
You know, another thing too, probably our proximity to the low. Our low, if there's a giant L in the air, it would be over to our west. And with that low, you have wrapping air. I wonder if that's just that increased vorticity bump up that's going to allow for those storms to form on up. That's probably what's happening here is you just have increased rotation as you get higher in the atmosphere. It's like a big old drain into your bathtub where you're seeing all that spinning and rotation down. We're kind of in that spot where it does look like we're seeing a lot of rapid change of wind direction with height in the atmosphere. We call directional wind shear. There's also speed shear, and some of these storms are going to be producing gusts close to 60 miles per hour. Stephanie, you're highlighting an area here that's going to include areas towards Lake Mills, Lake Ripley too. That's where that at least debris was earlier. Was that also that same portion that had the brief funnel cloud?
Yes, yes, in I believe northeastern portions of Rock County. But again, near Lake Ripley, or really between Lake Mills and Lake Ripley right now, that's kind of the problem area at the moment. There was clearly rotation. There was a tornado debris signature. So that's why I put the track on this latest tornado warned cell. So once again, just to head through some of those cities, Lake Ripley, obviously this is impacting you at the moment. Lake Mills, closer to about 8:30, maybe 8:32. Milford, not to be confused with Milton, like we talked about earlier, 8:37. Watertown, about 8:52. And then again, just kind of checking in with the National Weather Service. They did actually report some damage earlier near Delavan with that tornado.
Okay, so that is where that debris ball was
signature.
earlier then.
And then again in Elkhorn, this is actually just of a minute ago, reports of a tornado on the ground. So I'm going to pan this towards the
let's take
south
it
a little
farther
bit
south.
more, because now we're kind of still focusing in on Walworth County. I'm
This warning is still for another 9 minutes. So if you're within Walworth County, seek shelter immediately. You're included within this tornado warning system. As we just take a look closer now, we are seeing Fort Atkinson, likely still some activity going on there. Lake Geneva, if you get towards Elkhorn.
Let me put on storm relative
velocity.
velocity.
Storm relative velocity
too.
should give us a little better picture
There
here.
we go.
So, okay, here we go. So we're seeing all kinds of different colors here. What we're looking for is red and green very close together. We call a couplet. One of my favorite words to say in meteorology. That is where we're seeing rotation, convergence of wind speeds and direction. From what we can tell from radar, we can look at rain, we can look at hail, we can look at all kinds of things, but wind direction is one of our most powerful tools we have. Just southwest of Sugar Creek, it does look like we have an area that has some tight-knit rotation a little bit. Does still look pretty broad, Stephanie.
I think correlation coefficient might be a little bit easier in this situation.
Okay, just northeast of Elkhorn then.
Yes.
We are seeing a little variation in colors here. Not getting those purples and blues that we were seeing in Iowa earlier today, so that's a good thing. But that does still mean we likely have areas of rotation producing at least some kind of organization that, if it is confirmed, which you mentioned that was National Weather Service just issued.
Okay. So Elkhorn, really just northeast of Elkhorn now, as you can see, and I'll circle the TDS that we have right now.
So this is dangerous now too, because this is basically going right up the interstate. So please, again, seek shelter, prepare. If you're east of us, if you're tired of us talking on air, I get it. I'm tired of talking too, but we stay on until these tornado warning storms are done in the region. And right now, this is basically moving straight northeast. So East Troy, you're next online. If you are in this area, please seek shelter immediately. Interior room of your home, away from windows. Mukwonago, you're also going to be up next. Would I be that shocked if this basically keeps riding up the interstate? Probably not. It's a fast, free ride for them. But areas within this region, we have debris on the radar. That's what we're seeing with the debris tracker. It's a little tricky with our velocity product at this time. Doesn't look like we're seeing any tight couplet, which is a good thing. But we could have a brief spin-up tornado here along this squall line that's going to keep on producing damaging winds regardless. Also that potential for some hail. And from at least this warned storm, Walworth County, you're included in this until 8:30. And we just got another beep. That means we got another fresh warning coming in.
A new severe thunderstorm warning that's basically just been extended into Milwaukee and then the remainder of Racine, as well as Kenosha. And that end time there is 9:30.
9:30.
So we'll still have about an hour until this line completely passes and gets out over Lake Michigan. Timing wise, this is actually really right according to what we were originally thinking. So it should clear our area certainly by 10 p.m. But once again, I'm actually going to go back to that correlation coefficient because once again, Elkhorn, or really just north of Elkhorn, this actually looks a whole lot better right now, but clearly you can still see a little bright spot on there. That's our problem area at the moment. There was a report of a tornado on the ground in Elkhorn at about 8:19. So it's been a couple of minutes now. And remember, these kind of come and go. They can touch the ground, they can lift, they can touch the ground again. So still East Troy, as this is trekking its way northeast, you guys are absolutely up next here in the next couple of minutes.
And what's happened in Jefferson County is they extended that tornado warning earlier. Now that was near the Lake Mills area in the Lake Ripley section. I'm not seeing any kind of debris there either. So that's good. That's a good thing. We're not rooting for that at all. We want all this to dissipate quickly. We don't want it to stay organized. Now we're very close proximity now to where the radar is. So if you're wondering what this section is, that's the radar. That's spinning around, giving us those scans of the upper atmosphere, giving us a picture of what's actually happening. And as we look farther south, it does look like towards East Troy, from Elkhorn to East Troy, working its way up towards Mukwonago. That is going to be the area of concern. I know it's not very dense populated in that sector, but still, interior portion of your home as low as you can get. And your basement is best, away from windows. You don't want to be anywhere close to a window. If you do see any kind of a brief spin-up tornado come in your region, it can cause a lot of debris to rush into your home at a very quick rate. And it's saved so many lives just being an interior portion of your home. But the good thing is we're going to continue to see this work its way northeast. It does look like a lot of our rotation, looking at our velocity product, is quite broad. There isn't any really tight-knit areas. Maybe as you get farther southeast towards East Troy again, can we zoom in on parts of Walworth County? So that's an area that, again, it's hard to really see much action going on. Possibly farther southwest, close to where that debris signature may have been earlier, Stephanie, possibly seeing something there. But Again, that doesn't give us that bright green and bright red you generally see with a tight-knit rotation. So that's a good thing. With a squall line, you're not going to get those super huge tornadoes that you see on videos and movies. Not going to be anything like Twister here, but you do have that chance of damaging straight line winds over 60 miles per hour. So here's that broad view. A lot going on. Milwaukee County, you're now included in that severe thunderstorm warning. Was that until 9:30?
9:30. And you can actually start to hear that thunder here at the station too. But the little cell that's moving through the Milwaukee area right now, that's not necessarily what we're worried about. We're worried about the line that is still off towards the west, really extending from, let's say, the Watertown area down into western portions of Kenosha County and even still the Lake Geneva area.
And look, and this storm does have a history of producing tornadoes. We do know that. It's produced all kinds of damage down trees. We do have damage to power lines of portions of eastern Iowa. Not saying we've seen confirmation any of that, at least close to us yet, but because it's the pitch black outside, we're not going to see the damage until tomorrow. So this is what's going on. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning for much of Waukesha County too. That's until 8:45, if I'm not mistaken. There you go. 8:30 includes just about everyone east of that. If you are north, we're not forgetting about you totally, but you are looking much better. Your temps are colder. You don't have much energy at the lower surface of the atmosphere, so any of those storms boiling up likely just won't have as much juice, so heavy rain's your main concern. But Waukesha, you're starting to fill in with that heavy rain. And then, Stephanie, can we go closer back to Elkhorn all the way up towards Mukwonago just one more time just to take a close look at this line? So it does look like it doesn't look quite as organized on that initial front. Maybe we could get another brief reorganization farther northeast. And if we haven't seen this warning extended northeast, this tornado warning, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We do not want these warnings extended farther north because, again, maybe it's going to be tapping into some rotation in the upper atmosphere because that low is causing a lot of turning, a lot of angular momentum. Just like if you're spinning and you bring your arms in closer, you're going to start spinning faster and faster in your office chair. If you're bored, try it out sometime. That's how it works.
Yeah, and you know what? I do have good news, Eric. The National Weather Service is going to allow this big tornado warning covering parts of Jefferson as well as Walworth County. They are going to allow it to expire at 8:30. So we have a couple more minutes on that. So that's some fantastic news. We'll just have this warning in northern parts of Jefferson County. And quickly,
and that expires.
That is
2 minutes too.
That one is 8:45. So we have a little bit longer on that. And then just really quickly, just to show you that, you know, this is kind of the last of it, I just wanted to quickly put up what's remaining of the tornado watch. So that would be the yellow that's behind the severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado warning. Now, originally this was for all of southern Wisconsin. So notice counties towards the west, this has now been allowed to expire a little bit early, meaning places like Madison and points westward now in the clear. So once we see this line out of our area in the next hour, we will also be in the clear here in southeast Wisconsin. But until at least about 9:30, we still need to watch these storms.
Exactly. So that's the cold front. Where all this heavy rain is, that's where the cold front is. Once the cold front passes over you, sorry, goodbye 60s. If you felt that briefly today, it's not going to be there tomorrow. But once all that energy is zapped from the atmosphere, as Stephanie just mentioned, areas like Madison, Janesville, you're no longer within that tornado watch. So good news. Once this passes,
that warning was just brought off the screen because it was expired.
There we go. So we have no more tornado warnings on screen, if I'm not mistaken.
Just
Stephanie.
One in northern Jefferson until 8:45,
So
but
8:45.
that is also showing signs of weakening. In fact, I'll put
lot
up
of that's
storm
already
relative
past it.
velocity.
It's pretty long, all right? Usually you want those colors pretty close together in a circle.
Right. At the very least, there's absolutely some strong wind within this.
But regardless if you're in a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning, please be somewhere away from windows. Interior room of your home. We're not quite out of this yet, but we are seeing a good trend. We haven't seen these warnings extended farther east. Still the main area of concern. Does look like pretty broad rotation just north of Johnson Creek. That looks like it's weakening too. We're not seeing a tight couplet anymore. It's basically, I don't know, looks like it's cut in half basically at this time in terms of its rotation. So good news there. Everyone's going to get heavy rain. Everyone's going to be getting some thunder activity in no time. Milwaukee County, you're probably tired of us talking because a lot of this does not have impacts to you yet, but you're under that severe thunderstorm warning until 9:30. But this is moving through pretty quickly, so we might be done with this thing by around 9. It's very possible, especially now that they've expired some of the tornado watches to the west. But what we're still keeping a close eye on is if we get any kind of reorganization farther south, because that's where the most energy is, down towards that Illinois, Kenosha area. That's the sweet spot in terms of still a lot of moisture and warm air at the surface. We're getting some lightning here on the weather deck, but right now, Stephanie, it looks like this is just a big old mess of heavy rainfall, and wouldn't be surprised at the very least if we see that warning expired and we are left with no more tornado warnings, which means we can get you back to your regular programming, okay? We can. Ben, is Ben available for a damage report you just mentioned? Ben, if you can hear me, Ben, go ahead if you do have any damage reports.
Yeah, we just got that one damage report, and you did mention this. It came from about half an hour ago in Sharon, between Sharon and Delavan.
Okay.
Damage to multiple buildings between Sharon and Delavan. We know this is now coming from law enforcement, so probably someone from the sheriff's office seeing some damage. That's a pretty rural area out there. We don't know how big the damage is, whether it's a piece of a barn or a shingle or something, but that is the one damage report that we've had from this so far, and that was about a half an hour ago.
All right, thank you, Ben. Yeah, this is consistent with other damage reports we've gotten farther west. Lots of barns, lots of little areas near more closely to farmland, little rural areas have had at least some trees knocked down too. Seems consistent. A lot of these severe thunderstorm warning storms are capable of producing winds up to 60 miles per hour. But Ben, has there been any other indication from law enforcement? Do we have any backups to be concerned about? I just don't want anyone traveling right now. This is the wrong time to go get groceries. If you can wait an hour, please do. Ben, are you still there?
Yeah, and we do have calls in the law enforcement. Obviously, they're busy and out in the storm right now. So, yeah obviously, that system that you've been talking about, obviously it's weakening as it moves northwest, but it does have that history of possibly spinning up some damage. So I would definitely take it easy as we continue to follow this. But we do have calls in the law enforcement, and we're continuing to try and see if there's been any more damage reports. And we're efforting Walworth as well. To try and see if we can get some more information about what's happening down there.
Well, thank you, Ben. Best in the biz. And Stephanie just let me know. Great news, guys. Our tornado warning has expired for portions of Jefferson County. So that's a great news there that it didn't continue to push farther north. Does look like everything's just becoming very heavy rain at this time. Current, at least active warnings now, is just severe thunderstorm warnings until 9:30 and 8:45. The 8:45 portion, including Waukesha, will expire first. Then what's closest, parts of Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha. You're going to be the last ones included with this at 9:30. But, Stephanie, is there anything else you want to point out here at this time? I do think we can start kind of wrapping up our coverage here. We do appreciate everyone for holding tight with us. You probably got your dose of news for the day. But Stephanie, is there anything else on radar that you'd like us to kind of notice you're seeing here?
We're still going to watch it very closely. Obviously, there's definitely still some heavy rain, likely some stronger wind gusts, maybe just not quite to that severe potential. Thankfully, there's nothing showing up on our velocity scans that we need to be worried about at the moment. But we also know that this storm has been capable, as we have just seen, of producing these quick spin ups. So we will still watch it very closely. I do still think we have another hour before this is completely out over Lake Michigan. Those of you within the severe thunderstorm warnings, still be prepared for winds of 60 miles per hour, as well as at least quarter-sized hail in the next hour as this line kind of clears our area. But once this is out of here, then we're good for the night. And Eric, tomorrow morning, we have snow
not
in the
an
forecast.
April Fool's joke. I can't, Stephanie, you don't even have a bead of sweat on you. She stays ice cold under pressure. I've been sweating like crazy. She handles this like nothing, a pro. Stephanie, fantastic job. Thank you so much. She was here. She's been here since 9 a.m. She's a rock star. Continue to hold it down for us. Stephanie said it best. We're seeing a lot of still heavy rain. Likely going to be dealing with this another 30 minutes to an hour. Now, Stephanie, if I'm not mistaken now, we can start to at least wind things down a little bit. All right. I'm sure you're tired of hearing us talk. I'm here to tired of myself talk. Thank you so much for joining us here. Help everyone stay safe during this system. We'll continue to keep you updated on anything. We'll do a cut-in if necessary. Otherwise, updates will be coming up on the 9 o'clock news. Now back to your regular programming.